to Jill's radio show.
Oh,
All good.
hi Ben, how are ya?
Hey, good, Stephen. How are you, buddy?
Good, it's a long time no see, and what's happening with you?
Lots going on actually. Two small kids, living on the Central Coast, doing a lot of work on a variety of projects that involve video recording and editing and original compositions, and doing a lot of YouTube stuff actually at the moment, and designing short courses for songwriting and composition. So yeah, spreading myself thin.
Did you get affected by the floods this year? The Central
We
Coast?
were No, we were really lucky. We're just in a particular part of the Central Coast that didn't get too badly affected, so we were okay. Yeah.
It's always
Thanks for
flooding
asking.
up in Lismore, the Central Coast, three times this year, Ben. There's been so many floods. It's flooded down where I am. Just want it to end, and hopefully it does.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think Lismore's. I mean, I studied uni in Lismore,
Mhm.
so I lived up there for a little while, and it's a really pretty town, and it's a real shame that it's been hit twice, and it looks like it's going to get hit again. So I hope it's not as bad as they've projected, and yeah, they can get through to next year.
Yeah, because we're in the La Nina season as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But how's the music industry for you? Because I started independent in 2020. My life, I'm not signed
Mm,
with any label. What about
mm.
yourself? What work have you been doing lately?
Well, I've never been. I mean, I've always been independent, in a variety of ways. But I think the thing that has shifted for me recently. I mean, I'm still writing a lot of songs, and I'm still working on a lot of music, creating a lot of original music. But I think for me, the big shift in the last year and a half has been trying to reinvent myself musically during the pandemic.
Hmm.
It's been a pretty weird 2.5 years. So halfway through the pandemic, I started doing some live streaming,
Hmm.
and I spent sort of 6, 7 weeks live streaming, and that was really interesting because it was something I had never considered doing, and I decided to just, use all my camera gear and use all my audio gear and basically turn the studio into a little, live streaming setup. And that was great, and it really tested me. And I was streaming 2 or 3 times a week, and I had to keep coming up with, things to do and talk about. But what was great about that was it kind of then launched this whole new business model that I've got going now with my business partner Kepi Coots,
Hmm.
and we launched this business called How to Write Songs on YouTube, and from there we've just been growing that business and really setting ourselves the challenge of breaking down the songwriting and the compositional process
Mm.
and trying to talk about it in these bite-sized chunks for people who are interested or people who need a little bit of help with technique or craft. So that's been the last year and a half of us going pretty hard on that, and now we're starting to look at designing short courses on Udemy and just playing in that space more and more. So yeah, for me, it's about doing a lot of video work, a lot of video production work, and then writing songs and doing original score for projects when they come up.
Yeah, actually, my composition story, I came across royalty-free libraries.
Oh
It
yeah,
was in 2020. I made a cold call to a film composer, and he says, "How much you selling the tracks for?" I said, "Oh, $3," because I thought you could do an iTunes price. He says to me, "How are you going to eat doing that?" And that's when I came
yeah,
across, Vado and Pond Five, Motion Elements. So I'm
yeah.
on two. I tried Envato; that was too hard for me.
Mm,
It's too much. 5 times kept rejecting my work, so I was like, "Nah, bugger it."
right.
Have you thought about the royalty-free libraries yourself?
Um, it's one of those things where I haven't done it.
Mhm.
Um, I sort of thought about it, but I used to, so I have a licensing agreement with Grey Area Sound, who supply Big Bang and Fuzz, and that's it's more of the old production library idea where there's these huge catalogs of songs and instrumental compositions, and then people tap into them and license them for various projects. I sort of did that for a little bit. I briefly did that, and I kind of enjoyed it. Um, but I realized that I'm really happier coming up with my own music
Hmm.
for specific projects now. Taking on projects where I can write original score specifically to the project.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't say no to doing that kind of stuff in the future. I wouldn't rule anything out. It's just not something that I haven't spent a lot of time investigating it, Stephen. So I'd be curious to know what your insights are. Like, what have you learnt from doing it?
Just overcoming rejection, because all my music that's on Spotify, I put it there to sell, so people want to use it for their film,
Right.
production, and not having to worry about a royalty check from APRA once a year. So that's what I've done. I believe
Yeah.
in being flexible. Plus, I put them on Bandcamp as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, yeah, you got to be consistent with it.
Mm.
Just
Yeah.
keep doing it.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about, uh, it's interesting, the more and more I put music out, the more I see Spotify and Bandcamp and SoundCloud or wherever you want to host your music.
Mm,
I really see them as not money making
mm,
avenues. I see them more as really great ways to contain your portfolio. So
mm,
you can send links to people and say, here's a new track, or here's a set of instrumental compositions. It's an easy place to have your music that you can then direct people or show people,
mm.
and in that way it's like a virtual business card, and it,
So,
it also gets you. I think this was the thing that really interested me about streaming. You're having conversations with people in real time and you're making music in real time, and I think we as musicians just need to keep finding ways to be visible
mm,
in a market that is really saturated with a lot of music
mm.
and a lot of artists. We need to keep finding ways to be visible and keep having the conversation so that people may find our work online and say, "Hey, I've got a project coming up. Would you be interested?" We just have to keep putting it out there so we can keep having those conversations. That's how I'm starting to think more
Well,
about it.
that's exactly right, because I've distributed with CD, baby. It's like 50,
Mm,
$60 for just for a single.
mm,
That's
mm,
a lot of money just to put your work out there. So
mm.
I went to United Masters. They're free, but then you got to pay extra if you want to submit to ESPN. So I feel the music industry's ripping people off for years.
Well, it's changed. I think the thing about the music industry is it is changing so quickly.
Mm,
I feel like this period of change is has to be one of the most rapid periods of change the industry has ever undergone, and it doesn't appear to be slowing down.
mm,
We've got AI, coming into play more and more. We've got new platforms. Streaming, of course, has become huge.
mm,
So I think it's one of those things where it has always been a difficult industry. The challenge for us as composers and musicians and artists is how do we respond to the change? Like what can be the new avenues of revenue making and of exposure that we need to use? Because it. I don't think the old model works, or I don't think it helps to think about it like we used to. Even 5, 6 years ago, I don't think
mm.
it helps to think about it like that anymore. It has moved quickly. Yeah.
Exactly right. I mean, I'm listening to 50 Cent's autobiography on Audible, and talking about
Mm.
partnerships with vitamin water. Have you thought about partnering corporations and businesses like Adidas and all that, and Red Bull? Because Red Bull literally have a music company, you know that?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Red Bull's got, I mean,
Ugh.
it's a really interesting thing that a company like Red Bull has this label.
Mm,
I, I, yeah, I think you've got to, I think in a way it's gotten really complicated, and in another way it's gotten really simple. And the
mm,
the simplicity is that you just have to put your work out there. You
mm,
just have to put it out there, and you have to put it out there as often as possible, and to as higher, the quality has to be as high as you can manage, given that frequency is also becoming such a big deal. And then you've got to just be open to, I think you said it before, you've got to be flexible. You
mm,
got to be flexible to partnerships. You got to be flexible to trying to get sync
Mhm.
opportunities with the music, trying to get it placed in television. The exciting thing about TV is that, there's never been a better time to try and get sync
Mm.
licenses with TV. There are so many TV productions. There are how many streaming services now making original content. And so if
Mm.
you're a composer, um, there is a lot of content being made that needs music. There's a lot of new shows coming out every week, and that's exciting if you're a composer or a musician.
Oh, exactly. And one day, if you do get that dream role, yeah, take as many opportunities as you can.
Mm, mm.
Have you thought about signing to a record label when you were younger?
I was never. I think my music that I made was always a little too obscure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was always just, it just moved around, and I never really thought about a label. I never chased a label. So, and by chasing, I mean I
Mm.
never really took the steps that you probably need to take to start having that conversation, because I didn't really know what to do. I was
Mm.
just really interested in being at uni, learning how to play guitar as well as I could. I fell in love with songwriting and composition. I then studied film and TV at AFTRS because I really wanted to learn um, how to get specific with my compositional skills
Mm-hmm.
and apply it to film and TV. And I think I was always a little too interested in just the craft of music making, and I wasn't business savvy enough to really have those conversations. So
Mm-hmm.
it didn't feel like it was ever really on the cards, for me. And I wasn't making music really that was that commercially viable, in my early days. And I don't think I've really changed that much
Mm.
since. So yeah, it was never really a conversation I had to have.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like you've always worked hard all your life, you know.
I think that goes for anyone who decides to try and make music full time. I think yeah,
But tell me,
that's the deal.
live streaming, because I do the music show on my YouTube with live streaming, and I find it's harder, especially when
Right.
you're on your own and you're talking to like literally no one. How have you coped with that? How do you keep a conversation going?
Well, I didn't do it for very long. I
Mhm.
did it for, like I said, I sort of did 7 weeks, I think, and I was really into it for those 7 weeks. I stopped doing it because I think exactly what you're saying. The numbers sometimes were okay, but the numbers were sometimes also very small. Two or three people were on the
Mm.
other side, and it is a weird thing, right? When you're basically sort of talking to the camera or talking to yourself, and people are coming and going on the other end. The way I dealt with it was I tried to do a lot of collaborations. So I started doing this thing where I wanted to play around with mind mapping songs. I wanted to actually pull up a virtual mind mapping tool called Miro,
Mhm.
and I would get on a Zoom call with some of my fellow songwriters and some of my friends and say, "Hey, do you want to do a live stream where we start with a songwriting prompt, and then over the next 2 hours we try and break it down, and we draw all these weird lines going to bubbles and see if we can write a song in a couple of hours?"
Mhm.
So I think the key to live streaming, the people who do it really well and successfully, are the people who do what they were going to do anyway.
Mm.
Some people were going to practice guitar for 2 hours anyway on Tuesday morning. And
Mm.
so the only difference is they have their cameras set up and they press go, they press, stream, and then they have the conversation with people who happen to be interested. But that's the way I think you sustain it. You just do the thing that you wanted to do anyway,
Mm.
and you adapt the behavior slightly for an audience as they pop in and out. So that was how I tried to do it. Do the things that I wanted to do anyway, like write songs, play slide guitar, experiment with different pedals and plugins and production techniques.
Mm.
And I also got other people involved and did a bunch of duo stuff and collaborations. That's how I made it, interesting enough to do it for a little while.
Yeah, that maybe I got to look at doing that in the future instead of just talking music journalism, because that's what I've been experimenting with, journalism
Yeah.
in music.
What do you how do you structure it when you say journalism? Do you sort of pick a topic and then dive deep, or what do you do?
Yeah, just like short, like a tabloid, what the New York Post would do about Taylor Swift or
Oh,
music
okay.
festivals, just what's
Yeah.
going on in the music industry.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
good
It,
experience, but do you believe that we have to be suited for live streaming, or is it for everyone?
not at all. No, I don't think it's suitable for a lot of people. And I would say you absolutely don't have to do it. It's just one thing that I tried that, was really enjoyable and taught me a few things about my own process. But again, I lasted like 7 weeks. So it's clearly I'm not someone who likes live streaming
Mm,
enough to keep doing it. It taught me though that I do actually love making videos. So
mm,
I turned all of the lessons I learned from live streaming. I put those into the YouTube channel,
mm,
and I'm much more comfortable making YouTube videos. I'm much more comfortable scripting out, you know, or creating a script on a particular topic,
mhm,
and then filming that and editing it and doing graphic overlays and actually going through the editing process. I like editing. I like editing videos. I like editing audio too. So for some people, I think the live stream is great because they don't like editing and they get to just, do it on the fly and whatever happens, happens.
mm.
For me, I think I do enjoy the editing process and creating a product, with more detail thrown in.
Yeah, I found with live streaming, sometimes the telephone rings and people pick it up in the background or the mower. That's harder too, because I think, I try to prepare it a week in advance, but
Mm,
if the conversation's wrapped up in 10 minutes, I wrap it up.
mm. I think we're still getting used to what it is. I think
Mm,
live streaming is so new, and the rise of platforms like Twitch have been such a big deal. But we're still trying to work out, what it is and how it works. And we're trying to work out, what the right code of conduct is. And some people do, they have conversations on their phone in the background. And I know friends who actually subscribe to certain streamers,
mm,
and just have them on in the background, on another monitor. It just like while they're working, they just have them there doing their thing, and it's such an interesting form of entertainment now. And the fact that people pay for these
mm,
subscriptions like they would pay for Netflix or another streaming service.
mm.
I just think it's really new, it's really fascinating, and we just don't we haven't had enough time to really get our heads around all the nuances. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Social audio, Spotify Green Room, Clubhouse got popular in the lockdown.
Yeah.
Um, I tried Clubhouse, but it's too overpopulated. Spotify Green Room, I remember 2 weeks they had all this traffic and that died out, man. So
Right.
I use one called Wisdom where I do my morning podcast on it. It's just like a radio show,
Yeah.
and I think social audio is for me. I'm enjoying it.
Mm.
So have you thought
Yeah.
about social audio yourself, apps?
I guess I feel like I feel like the YouTube channel is my version of that.
Hmm.
If I had to pick one, YouTube just felt like the right medium for what I want to do.
Hmm.
And what Kepi and I, again, because I'm working with someone else, Kepi and I do all this, or most of the scripts together. We do most of the filming together. We take turns editing different parts, so it's a really enjoyable process because I'm doing it with someone else. Um, but also, we may go to social audio at some
Mm.
point. That may become one of the things we do. But I'm doing Patreon as well. So
Yeah.
we started a Patreon page, and we do monthly online sessions with our patrons. Where we do live Q&A and feedback on their original songs. So I think making YouTube videos, doing the Patreon, designing short courses on Udemy. I feel like I'm still trying to get my head around all the new platforms
Mm.
that I'm currently part of. I feel like there's a bunch out there that I haven't tried, and I'll probably get round to them. But at the moment, I'm kind of just, yeah, trying to do a few at a time.
Yeah. I mean, we lived in such an online world back for the last 2 years.
Mm,
It was weird virtual world. I mean, we're podcasting virtually, of course.
of course.
Um, but how did you miss that human interaction?
Yeah, yeah, a lot. Um, yeah, it was weird. It definitely was. Look, it's one of those things again. I think we're still trying to get our heads around what has just happened over the
Mm,
last 2.5 years, and we're still trying to work out what the flow-on effects of that are. I mean, I teach songwriting and composition and a couple of other subjects at JMC Academy in Sydney,
mhm,
and I did online classes with my students for a year. We were doing Zoom classes just like we're doing here. It was really hard for the students.
mm,
Like it was really tough because you only find out what you're losing, um, or you only find out what's missing when you're forced to do Zoom lessons or online lessons every week, week after week. And I guess I never realized how much happens in a classroom, just physically noticing different cues or but just being in the room with each other, all the little gestures and all the little mannerisms that help, you communicate an idea and help you understand if people are actually getting the idea.
mm,
So yeah, I think it was really tough on them. And for me, gigs not being, gigs got shut down. I didn't see a lot of friends for a long time. Ironically, I reconnected with, or maybe appropriately, I reconnected with a couple of friends who I haven't seen in years, just
mm.
because we could jump on a Zoom call. And actually, so that was kind of weird. I lost touch with some of the friends that I would normally see in person, and I reconnected with friends who I hadn't seen in years, just because we could jump online. So yeah, I think in general it was tough, and the fact that we're getting back in person for most things is great.
Are you
I
teaching
love it.
on campus at JMC at the moment, or are you still
Yeah,
online?
absolutely. Yeah, we've been back on campus all year this year, and which has been great. It's been so nice to get back into the classroom and just connect with the students in the same room. It's amazing.
No, that's it, And what else is happening for you for the rest of the year, Ben? What are you going to be up to?
Well, I'm working on. I got interesting, and this goes back to the live streaming conversation. Um, I I know Twitch is it's a big platform for gaming,
Mm,
video games, and I was doing a live stream where I was kind of experimenting with kind of like some cinematic instrumental techniques. And I can't remember exactly how it happened, but these guys came on the chat and we'd kind of been introduced by some mutual friends who we'd met a long time ago. But they're two video game developers, and they've been working on this game for a long time, and they really liked the music that I was
mm,
making, because I was just making some instrumental stuff, focusing on the slide guitar, and we ended up having a conversation that developed, and through that conversation, we've now created an agreement where I'm going to be composing the music for their video game,
mhm,
which is that's gonna take the next 6 months or so. So it's going to be a lot of I've already started working on quite a few of the compositions, but that's really exciting because video games are they're so interesting from a
mhm,
compositional point of view. It's kind of using film techniques, but the implementation is really different, and you're thinking about proximity and all these different triggers.
mhm,
So I'm going to be working on that for the next 6 months, which is really exciting. Getting to play a lot of instruments in this room, a lot of folk instruments, banjo and a lot of slide and things like that. Um, and building the YouTube channel every week, just continually thinking of topics that we want to dive into on composition and songwriting.
mm.
So I think focusing on those two, yeah, for the next couple of months, that'll get me through to the end of the year, and then I've got a production schedule that I've got to put together for January. So yeah, it's going to be a really busy end of the year.
Yeah, I hope your YouTube goes well.
Oh,
Hope your channel
thanks.
takes off,
Thank
and
you.
you reach the million subscribers one day. Is that your end goal? Or you're going to monetize it? That's what I'm
Oh,
pushing.
yeah. Well, we do have, what are we at? I think we're at 18,700 subscribers at the moment, which is great.
Mhm.
And that's been such a roller coaster, and I've learned so much about YouTube just doing that. But we don't really have a target in mind. We just want to keep building it and using it as a great platform to reach a lot of people with short form content, or medium form content. I think that's the really exciting part, that you can create a video about a topic like chord choices, diatonic chord systems, or
Mhm.
something that's a piece of music theory that you've broken down, and you can make a 10-minute video and then have thousands or tens of thousands of people watch it, and then you get these great comments, and you get to go back and forth with people, and
Mm.
it's just it's just a really exciting platform, because it's sort of what I feel like I do in the classroom, except you're doing it with hundreds of thousands or millions of people. That's a pretty big thrill. So yeah.
Ben, got about 8 minutes left. Anything you want to say before we finish the show? Where can people find you on your social media as well, or find your
Oh
music
yeah, yeah.
online?
So the YouTube channel is How to Write Songs.
Hmm.
And I'll put a link for you in the show notes. And yeah, we've got our Instagram channels, and we've got our Udemy platform. So Udemy's great at the moment, because it's allowing us to create these short courses that people can do, that really it takes the idea of YouTube, but it puts them in sequence. So
Mm.
so we've been able to make a lot of these courses in order, which is one of the big frustrations with YouTube, that there's all this content, but trying to put it in the right order so that people can learn sequentially, that's tricky. So
Mm.
Udemy has been fantastic for that, and we're just going to keep releasing more courses on topics that people are asking for. And yeah, I guess I'm keen to know where you're going to take your work next.
My work hopefully starts getting sales on the royalty free libraries.
Yeah,
Reach the 1 day million subscribers.
yeah,
Being a film, so I'm very open to opportunities. Plus the podcast as well,
yeah,
and yeah, just taking a day at a time. So.
yeah. Are you doing much composing at the moment?
Not at the moment, as I was doing earlier this year. I entered into a few film scoring competition, so I've got a
Hmm.
portfolio on my channel. But I'm just
Yeah.
uploading samples on the royalty-free libraries of 30-second jingles.
Oh,
Just
great.
doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, great. You could just keep doing it.
I will.